The crazy engineering of Venice.
The year is 452. The Roman Empire is on the brink of collapse, and the Huns have just launched their attack on northern Italy. Several cities are completely destroyed, forcing the locals to go on the run. They head for a lagoon just off the coast and take refuge on several small islands.
I feel like being in this water in the middle of the night. I mean, of course, the type of adrenaline that you would have. You know, you're on that boat, you've got like your wife that has five children, if not six, because you like adopted a black boy or something. Um, and then you're like going down just like this murky water, and you just know that you are the father, and you're the. I mean, it's definitely stressful because you have a bunch of thoughts going down your head, but it's like in that moment that makes you such a manly man. Like you are in that moment physically the protector. Like a lot of times fathers nowadays are just the protector, like financially or, transportation to your daughter's basketball game or something like that. That's crazy to think about, that they were just conning a boat.
A decision that would no doubt save their lives. Against all odds, this small civilization eventually went on to build one of the most impressive feats of engineering the world has ever seen: Venice.
Let's go. I love Venice. I want to go there so bad. It's about to be banged.
Despite having no roads, no land, and no fresh water, the Venetians managed to turn a muddy swamp into the most powerful and wealthiest city of its time. This unique layout of canals and bridges woven through hundreds of islands made Venice incredibly accessible, and it became the epicenter of all business. We modeled the entire thing to show you what's going on beneath the surface and how.
Does Venice have an airport? Well, I bet that they have like a seaplane port, but I wonder, does Venice have an airport? Because they have a bunch of travelers. So do you just go all the way to Venice by, like, you go from an airport and then you go on a seaplane and then land? Yes, Venice, Italy has its own airport called Venice Marco Polo. Oh, Marco Polo Airport. It's located about 5 miles north of the city on the mainland. From the airport, you can reach Venice by. So you can reach Venice by water taxi or an Alaguna water bus? What is an Alaguna water bus? Um, because I know that there's, like a water taxi or whatever. So it's like a boat. Oh, okay. It's like a miniature yacht.
How its clever design and medieval engineering allowed it to take over the world. When the first refugees arrived to start their new lives on the islands, they had the worst possible surface to build on. The small marshy islands were made of an incredibly soft clay, which would barely hold the weight of a human, let alone an entire city. To create stable foundations for buildings, the Venetians collected large timber piles from the forests of Croatia and started hammering them into the ground. They drove them about 5 meters deep until they reached a much harder layer of clay. Not only did this stabilize the piles, but by packing them really close together, it compressed the surrounding clay, pushing out the water and making it much stronger. Once the piles were firmly in the ground, the tops were cut off and wooden planks were laid on top to spread the load. Special blocks of Istrian stone were then placed to raise the foundations above the water. This design was a stroke of genius, as the wooden piles were sealed away from the air, making it impossible for them to rot. To this day, almost all of the original piles are in great condition and are still holding up the city. Once the foundation had been properly laid down, the buildings themselves were built. Venetians started off using wood for their houses, but after numerous fires, they switched to brick. To keep the buildings as lightweight as possible, they had to be no more than 3 stories high.
You know, it makes me wonder, like, is Venice the only, I guess, city on water? Because it sounds like a horrible idea. You know, just like Venice in general. Because a mainland, like people say to build your rock, your people say to build your house on rock, not sand, because it just withers away. And the only reason those structures are still there is because of those beams going into the water. So I wonder, is Venice, like, is it just so popular that that's the only city that you hear about that's on water? Because surely there's some, but maybe it's like not as pretty or advanced or doesn't have like the best pizza there. Um, oh yeah, Bangkok, Thailand is also built on water. Amsterdam, yeah, Amsterdam. Um, Belgium. Dang, they've got a couple. I like Venice is just the who was the first to do it though? 'Cause like that's a wet day of working, putting those beams down there. Switzerland was the first to do it. Um, but Venice is basically the first major city that's built on water. The one in Switzerland is dated around 5,000 to 1,000 BC, and they basically found villages built on wooden stilts over lakes like the Lake Garda. These communities lived on water to avoid floods and predators. Dude, I feel like you'd get. Surely they got like a whale that would, like some orcas, some killer orcas or something like that, some sharks. Imagine just trying to get a baguette and a freaking shark just comes out and takes it from you. What are you supposed to do? You just supposed to dive in and like Shark Boy? And go over there and play baby shark in the ocean and just try to tame that little, get that baguette from him?
Lime mortar had to be used instead of cement because it was flexible and would allow the entire building to flex as the ground beneath slowly moved. The inner walls were built in a crisscross pattern that would also flex like a trellis. The facade walls, which had large windows and elegant stone designs, made them
The builders were like, not trying to flex or anything, but basically this whole city's a flex.
much heavier, and so in order to stop them from falling over, they were pinned into the floor using iron rods, keeping the entire building together. This method of building worked well for the Venetians, and soon several islands around the lagoon were established in this way. Instead of expanding outwards like most cities, these islands expanded into each other. At first, boats were the only way to cross between the islands, but eventually the islands grew closer together, and many could be crossed by simply wading through the shallow water on a horse. The next step is
Just getting on your horse going over that water like a badass. That's what I'm thinking. I see somebody with a dang European stallion just making its way across that lagoon. Oh, that guy's getting laid.
In Venice's evolution would, of course, be connecting the islands. Surprisingly, there were no bridges for the first 500 years of Venice's existence. But as the population increased and business started to ramp up, there needed to be an easier way to reach Rialto, the financial center of Venice. And so, the Doge of Venice set up a prize for the engineer that could design the best bridge. He announced this by putting up displate posters all around the city. Just kidding. Displate, today's sponsor, makes awesome. They have an official design without extra put to the meddling door to turn Venice from a collection of islands into a bustling city. Bridges had to be built. The first attempt was a simple pontoon bridge that joined the two largest sections of Venice together and, crucially, provided quick access to the Rialto area. The bridge was later upgraded to a wooden bridge, which eventually burned down and collapsed before it was finally replaced by a much stronger stone bridge.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm sure that people were just smoking over that bridge. You know, cigarette butts just burning that bridge down. Huh. I just wonder, like, how have there not been tsunamis that has wiped away the city? Has there been a tsunami that has attacked Venice? Because that would be my biggest fear. Like, you're just over there conning a boat, like you're a boat taxi or whatever, and then all of a sudden you just see the whole sky get black, and then this whole humongous wave just crashes over everything. There's nowhere to go. Like that's the main reason why 99.9% of people don't build a city on the water. They're just built different. Um, this is going to be a lot of reading, but I think it's important because I guess it just goes to show like the location of Venice and why it was so perfect to build there. So, so yeah.
To build it,
So, basically, Venice has never been hit by a large tsunami because of its location and geography. The city sits inside a shallow enclosed lagoon. This protected from the open sea by long barrier islands. These islands and the narrow lagoon entrances act like natural shields, breaking up large waves before they can reach the city. While a few small tsunamis like waves from distant earthquakes have caused minor water movement in the past, none have been strong enough to cause serious damage. Instead, Venice's main flooding problem comes from high tides, wind, and rising sea levels, not tsunamis. Interesting. Dang. So they just got Mother Nature protecting them, having a natural barrier. Because I'm thinking like the first person that ever built a structure on Venice was like, all right, we're just trying to hide from the Huns so that they're not stealing our family and making little panda babies with our children, you know? And so uh he was probably thinking like he just built like this tiny little hut that he knew wouldn't withstand the winter, you know? And then that hut, he was like, okay, well, I guess I'll put some siding on my house, maybe some, get a little stove going on instead of having a fire pit out, and then just slowly but surely started making modifications. And then like He was like, "Hey, I guess we'll just start building some more."
Over 12,000 timber piles were driven into the banks of the canal, and 10,000 tons of stone were built on top to form the bridge. To this day, the bridge still stands, and it serves as the main artery in the center of Venice. After this, stone bridges started to pop up everywhere, turning Venice into a compact city made up entirely of canals instead of roads. This gave Venice a unique advantage, since the canals allowed goods and traffic to flow quickly through every part of the city.
But little do you know that Venice freaking just slushes out about 100 million gallons of poo into the ocean, baby. Putting that little poo stain out there, making that water a little bit murky. Because you gotta wonder, like, Venice's water is disgusting, you know? Just straight shit water.
The messy overlap of pedestrians and horse-drawn traffic didn't exist in Venice, since the walkways and canals were completely separated. Yet people could transition between the two effortlessly without slowing down. By now, the city had become the most powerful and richest city in Europe. Everything being bought and sold went through Venice, and the Venetians were making enormous amounts of money. But
Yeah, because Venice is like just a city port. Like usually you have some sort of port that goes through your country. Um, and like if you're the only seller just sitting out there in the ocean and it's so convenient, it's like going to a Buc-ee's, you know, or a Buc-ee's as they call it. Um, Getting you some Buc meat in your mouth, you know. It's like going to there. Like it's so convenient and it's so large that why wouldn't you go to dang Buc-ee's, you know?
as business increased, so did the population, and the demand for fresh water was out of control. Despite being surrounded by water, Venice couldn't use any of it, since it was extremely salty and undrinkable. Without natural springs or rivers to collect fresh water, Venice relied upon boats to deliver water from the mainland. But with 170,000 people, the demand became too much, and the Venetian engineers had to get creative. From the beginning, Venetian islands were built around squares, which were initially just empty fields for animals to graze upon. The idea was to use these squares to collect rainwater. They started by digging out large areas under the entire square and lining the walls with a thick layer of clay to make it waterproof. The space was then filled in with sand and stones, and the surface was redone with tiles that would lead the water towards each corner of the square. From here, rainwater would flow into the basin and gradually filter through the sand and stones until it reached the main well at the center of the square. To maximize the surface area for water collection, the roofs of the nearby buildings were fitted with gutters that would direct the water onto the square and into the drains. Venice
That just doesn't that don't make sense. Like I feel like that would be such a big problem as far as just like the water safety. And like I'm sure that if a tourist went there back then, oh my gosh. Like if you're just a woman trying to get around, first of all, you already damn know that there's tourists who get on those boats and is like, I can't swim. I can't swim. Help me. I can't swim. And just like going bonkers, even though they're just like on a boat. Like, I think that there's definitely people, like, I know a tons of people who already get claustrophobic. And if you're at a place where you know that there's nowhere to run, like, you ain't going nowhere. It's basically like freaking North Korea on the water. If there's no passage out, then you're just stuck there, you know? And so I feel like that there probably was such a big problem. Like the people that live there are gonna draw like are gonna be accustomed to the water and how it goes through their digestive system and stuff like that. But one person could just put cyanide in that water, and like everyone's gonna die, you know? It's just like I'm sure that they maybe have they definitely just ship in all their water, and it's just like Disney World where it's $15 for a thing of water, you know?
Then became an enormous funnel which filled more than 600 wells around the city. The Venetian
Some person's just like playing in the sand with their child. They're like, "Oh, oh, we know here? No, we don't go here now. We can't build a sandcastle here. No, no, okay."
had once again engineered a
Only back
masterpiece to save its city. But there was still one huge problem: waste. Until this point, people threw all of their waste out of the window, some of it landing in the canal. But for those who didn't live within throwing distance,
Yeah, 'cause you're having like a New York City on the water. And the thing that's crazy is that New York City's just along the water, and so the Hudson River is disgusting. So it makes sense on even now, I'm sure that they have a pollution problem.
of a canal, urine, feces, and rotten food all ended up in the streets. And so, in the 16th century, the Venetians started building a network of underground tunnels that would collect the waste from every building and flush it into the canal. When the tide of the lagoon was down, solid waste would collect at the bottom, and the liquids would naturally flow into the canals. Then, when the tide rose, it would flood the tunnels and pull the solid waste into the canal. The motion of the tide coming in and out.
You gotta know when the tide's rising and when it's not, 'cause then you see like you're freaking. It's like a rat race, but with turds. You're like putting a number on that turd to see which one's gonna flow down the finish line first.
Out twice a day would exchange the dirty water for fresh.
I got number one. I got $5 for number one. $5. Come on, let's go number one. Let's go. Come on. You can roll a lot better than that. Come on.
Water from the sea, flushing Venice from all of its waste. The extremely salty water worked as a strong disinfectant, and thanks to this system, the streets became clean. Amazingly, almost all of the incredible engineering that made Venice is still.
Yeah, but you're just going that canal and it's just like poo water, dude. It's gotta smell. The locals definitely just get used to the smell at that point. I mean, I would definitely still like to go though. Look how beautiful this is. There's like nothing like this
Around today. The bridges, the canals, the buildings are all ancient relics sitting on a forest that has held up the entire city for over 1,000 years.
W video.
Convocou, talvez cê tá com popo, é vapo, vapo no setor, é vapo, vapo do vapor, vapo, vapo no setor, é vapo, vapo do vapor, vapo, vapo do vapor, vai tomar vapo do vapor, vapo, vapo do vapor, vai tomar vapo do vapor.